What if life handed you nothing but struggles from the very start? Ego was barely 8 when she lost her parents and was left with her sister, Ola, to face the world alone. Surviving on scraps, making painful mistakes, and raising children with no support, it seemed her story would end in hardship. But fate had other plans. A mysterious encounter in the rain would open a door she never thought possible, setting her on a path to become a powerful businesswoman and a symbol of hope. Follow Ego's incredible rise from a forgotten village girl to a powerful businesswoman, and let her story remind you that even the hardest beginnings can lead to greatness. Now listen to her inspiring journey.
After their parents' death, Ego and her sister barely survived. They relied on meager crops and odd jobs, facing endless days of hard work and uncertainty. By age 14, Ego was juggling everything: cooking, fetching water, helping in the rice fields. She was determined to keep the tiny family going, even as they slept on empty stomachs some nights. But Ego's beauty began to attract attention. By 16, she was turning heads, but she was wary of the promises made by young men in the village. Yet one man persisted. He seemed sweet at first, full of words about love and building a future together. Blinded by his charms, Ego fell into the trap. One day she found out she was pregnant. When she told him, the Dikpa turned cold. Dikpa disappeared, leaving her alone and pregnant. At just 17, Ego became a mother, juggling her baby, the rice field, and the small market where she sold sweet honey. Just as she thought she'd learned her lesson, the Dikpa reappeared, smooth-talking his way back into her life. Foolishly, she trusted him again, only to find herself pregnant a second time, and alone once more. Dikpa left the same way he came. Ego thought she'd made the biggest mistakes of her life. With 2 babies, no support, and just small bottles of honey left in her stock to sell, she felt like giving up. But she was stronger than she realized. One rainy evening, Ego took shelter under a small, rusty tin shed in the village marketplace. She was soaked, her children crying beside her as she tried to keep the rice she bought for dinner from getting wet. Suddenly, a sleek black car pulled up, a rare sight in their village. The car window rolled down, and an elderly man inside observed her for a few moments before speaking. "Why do you sit here, young lady, when you could be doing something greater?" he asked. Caught off guard, Ego struggled to respond. She stammered, trying to explain her situation, her business, her children. The man listened carefully, his eyes sharp but kind. After a pause, he reached into his pocket and handed her his business card. "Come to this address tomorrow," he said, and then drove off, leaving her stunned. Ego clutched the card, unsure if it was a miracle or a cruel joke. Ego stood there for a moment, gripping the business card. Tomorrow. She had little money, and transport to the city was expensive. Determined, she quickly sold off her remaining honey and even some of the few items she had brought for sale. She counted her earnings and, with barely enough for a one-way trip, decided to risk it all. The next day, she made her way to the address. It led her to a large, modern office in the city. She clutched her bottles of honey tightly, still unsure of what was happening. When she walked inside, she was ushered into an office where the same man from the night before waited. "I see potential in you, Ego," he began. "And I believe that with the right support, you can do something great." He then made her an incredible offer. He would invest in her business, help her expand her honey, rice and palm oil business, and even pay for her to return to school if she desired. Overwhelmed, Ego couldn't believe what she was hearing. But this was no fairy tale. The man wanted her to work hard, and he told her he wouldn't keep funding her forever. She had to prove herself, and she was determined not to waste this chance. Ego threw herself into her business with a fierceness that surprised everyone. She began selling not just in the village, but in nearby towns, expanding her small enterprise into something larger. By night she studied, going back to school to earn her diploma. Balancing her studies, business, and children was exhausting, but Ego was driven. Years passed, and Ego graduated from school. With her investors' help, she built a brand around her rice, honey, and palm oil products, which soon became popular across the region. Her name spread, and her success allowed her to help her sister and children live a better life. One day, Ego's investor called her into his office again. He looked at her with pride, but his tone was serious. "Ego, I've watched you grow from a village girl into a true entrepreneur," he said. "Now it's time for you to take this even further. I want you to run the company I started for you. Let it and keep building. And one more thing. Never forget where you came from." Ego accepted the offer, and with her beauty, brains, and unbreakable will, she became the CEO of her own company. Her story spread far and wide, inspiring countless others who had once believed they were stuck in a hopeless situation. Ego's story didn't end there. She used her success to create a foundation that helps young girls facing poverty, offering them the same hope and opportunity that had changed her life. She never forgot her beginnings, and she worked every day to make sure others could rise above their circumstances, just as she had.
Ego's story reminds us that even when life seems impossible, when every door appears closed, there is still a way forward. Through grit, heart, and a little help from those who believe in us, we can transform even the hardest beginnings into something beautiful. If you found Ego's story inspiring, don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Her journey from hardship to triumph is a reminder that no matter where we start, greatness is always within reach. Be courageous and never stop building yourself. Happy 2025. Stay tuned for more incredible stories of resilience and hope.